Hello, beautiful people. Randy Cryle here with some happy to say and glad to report news about my fall 100-mile races. Back on the weekend of September 12th and 13th, shortly after turning 58, I got a 100-mile PR at the Pine Creek 100-mile challenge in near Westboro, Pennsylvania. At Pine Creek this year, we had pretty much perfect weather. Quite a few people got PRs, and when you finish the 100-mile distance, you get to pick between a couple different handmade mugs. This thing is super heavy before the tea goes in, or coffee, and the bottom's not flat, so it kind of wiggles on the countertop. Really cool, truly handmade mug. But not only that, you 100-mile and 100K finishers get the buckle. So I'd been wanting to run that race for quite a few years, was partly holding out, waiting for them to do a buckle for the 100-mile finishers. The course is mostly small, rounded gravel path, up to 20 feet wide, probably 15 feet wide on average. Super easy to socially distance during that race. Everybody for all the different distances got a really nice buff and a really nice race tech shirt. And perhaps my very favorite thing from the Pine Creek Challenge, a butterfly style yo-yo. I can still do the sleeper and walk the dog. So Pine Creek Challenge was a beautiful, roughly 102-mile run on a smooth, relatively flat gravel path, often looking at an absolutely beautiful river through an area known as one of the Grand Canyons of the East. At the far end of the course, turnaround away from the start-finish area, there is a section where we cross over the Eastern States 100-mile course, which is a brutally rough technical mountain course. So we're sort of doing the opposite at Pine Creek Challenge, but we get to look at the beautiful rugged mountains from our fast, smooth course. Super well supported, great volunteers. The race is a bargain at under $200. There was free camping right there near the start-finish area, which of course I took advantage of. Probably could have gone faster at this race had I not had a nice warm bed to sleep in. But I was going after a PR regardless, with no pacer, no crew, and got it. So that was great by about a half an hour, just over 25 hours. So did not quite hit my A goal, but had a wonderful race. I went out way too fast. Marathon time, 50K time, 50-mile times were all really probably too fast. And I think I consumed a little bit too much caffeine too early to help keep that pace going, and really struggled through the night. I don't think the caffeine gave me quite the boost I needed, and I'm pretty sure I was sleepwalking a few times. But nonetheless, I made up quite a bit of time, as at around 80 miles, there were quite a few runners nearby, and at the finish, I don't think the next runner came in for 45 minutes or an hour. So in spite of how much of a struggle it was, somehow I kept a reasonable pace. So anyways, that was a wonderful race. Highly recommend the Pine Creek Challenge. So 5 weeks later, I'm back in Norton, Virginia, where we got two buffs at the Cloudsplitter 100-miler. This one from the city of Norton, which loves having us runners there. They take such incredible care of us and welcome us. I was so happy to be back in Norton. Everybody at Cloudsplitter, 100-miler, and all the other distances got this really nice shirt and a buff, which was something above and beyond what they did last year. Of course, this was an option for using as a mask before and during and after the race. Cloudsplitter is a brutally beautiful course on High Knob Mountain, and this year, due to remnants of a hurricane coming through the area several days before the race starting, there was a course reroute announced probably on Tuesday before the Saturday morning start. So Friday afternoon, when going to the packet pickup, I was not aware that there was yet another major route change, resulting in the race being longer. I think it was officially supposed to be 103.1 miles versus a little bit over 100, and I believe they added some elevation change and more miles of highly technical trail to the total. So the course should have been a 5 rated course in terms of the amount of elevation change and extremely rough technical conditions, which for the 100-mile distance would have included well over 100 water crossings. Last year the course was very dry, and this year we got to experience a lot of water. The beautiful sound of the waterfalls and the babbling mountain streams, but lots of rock hopping and climbing through mud, going into and out of the water crossings made it, it just added an element of excitement and adventure. Last year at Cloudsplitter, it was probably the toughest 100-miler I had ever finished, although Superior 100 took me even a little bit longer to finish. But it turned out I was the oldest finisher at the race and the first person to ever run it in Huarache style sandals. This year I was going for a faster pace due to the difficulty and extra miles of the course. I was not able to do that, but I got the 2020 buckle. She's a beauty, and finished with more runners behind me. So I think there were 6 finishers behind this year. Last year maybe only 3. And so I placed a little better in spite of taking longer to run what I believe was a more difficult course. So for 2020 Cloudsplitter 100-miler, I wore the exact same pair of Super Duty Huarache sandals that I wore last year and at the Falls 100, Kettle Moraine 100, Superior 100, but last year I bloodied up my feet pretty badly. Well, one foot. I ended up having to wear one sock on a bloody foot for about 26 miles. This year the race was several days later in October than last year, and it was much colder. Well, a bit colder. So we started out colder. I decided to wear these Injinji toe socks. There's only one toe pocket here, so it's a variation of the toe sock from Injinji. Medium weight, and my intention was to take these off after I got to the top of the mountain because I wasn't really enthusiastic about wearing these through the water crossings. I managed to get through quite a few water crossings with the trekking poles and relatively dry socks. After a while I had to give up on that idea, but they didn't feel bad. Long story short, I ended up wearing both socks the entire roughly 105, 106 miles, and they kept my skin more dry. I didn't have to apply any kind of body glide or anything, and kept my feet warmer, but also the very first time wearing them, I ripped a hole in them. And I'm pretty confident that had I not been wearing the toe socks, I would have once again had bloody feet at the Cloudsplitter. So in the bigger picture, it's going to be 10 years on December 10th on a diet exclusively based on plant-based foods. I keep trying to tweak it to where I'm taking in less processed oils and more whole foods, and I'm continuing on with intermittent fasting that I started in early January. It's working really well. Just a few days after Cloudsplitter, without any real effort, I was back down below 162 pounds. I always try to keep my weight between 160 and 165, and that's where I feel best, run best, etc. So that's important to me over the long haul, to stay in a healthy weight range, eating the right foods that are antioxidants and have anti-inflammatory properties. Cloudsplitter 100 miler ended up being my 18th official 100-mile finish and 20th overall. There were 2 do-it-yourself 100-mile runs that I set up prior to the Canal Corridor 100. So starting Mother's Day weekend, I did a 100-mile run race, and then 3-4 weeks later did that again, and then just a few weeks after that, Canal Corridor 100 miler. So those were the big prep runs for a PR at Pine Creek Challenge and another solid finish at the Cloudsplitter 100 miler. But basically, the point being, anecdotally, the minimalist footwear, lots of barefoot running, lots of minimalist running that's more minimalist than these Super Duty Huarache sandals, combined with the food choices, it's working. Unfortunately, what I expect to see is a lot less runners in my age group. Currently at 50 to 60 years old, men's ultra running is super competitive, but most of these runners they're generally not using an all plant-based diet or truly minimalist footwear. So I believe over the long haul, that's going to give me a super strong edge in terms of being able to cover these distances at an older age. And maybe I'm going to keep working on it. Maybe I can keep getting PRs as well. At the second of 2 do-it-yourself 100 milers this year, I ran, I believe it was the first 44 miles or so in the Zero Genesis Huarache style sandal. And at the Canal Corridor 100 miler, I wore these exclusively, the Zero Z Trails, for better than 100 miles. At Pine Creek, I wore another pair of these that have quite a few more years worth of wear on them. They're a little bit thinner, a little bit more worn, a little bit lighter weight. But I wore the Super Duty Bedrock Cairn. What I'm hoping to see from Zero Shoes in the future is a sandal with an outsole at least this thick and a Huarache style upper with perhaps just a little bit more side post stability than this. I think I could have easily run the Pine Creek Challenge in these Z Trails from Zero Shoes, but sometimes with only my left foot, left pinky toe tends to rub against this little forward post. Since I was going for a PR, I didn't want to have to be concerned with that. I could have dealt with it by simply putting some medical tape on my toe or whatever, but I didn't want to have to be distracted. And anyways, hoping to see Zero Shoes come out with something that's in between these options and this more heavy Super Duty option. It's worth noting that due to the pandemic, both the Pine Creek Challenge and the Cloudsplitter were at record levels of participation, simply due to so many races being canceled. Additionally, for me, Cloudsplitter was extra special because I went a little bit further in time and miles than I ever had before. Thank you for watching, and let me know if there's a topic that you would like me to cover, and I'll consider that. Have a great day.